To you, my friend.
Thank you so very much for having me here today. I can't tell you how much I love this topic. It is so near and dear to my heart, and you'll see why here in a second. You know, when most people think of champions, we have a tendency to look at people like athletes like, say, Michael Jordan or Messi. In the entertainment industry, we'll look at people like Oprah Winfrey or Matthew McConaughey. In business, Jeff Bezos and maybe someone like Warren Hathaway or Warren Buffett. And what happens when we think of these people, because they've done so well in their lives, we have a tendency to think that maybe they were born this way. They're special. They're not like us. They were born with that maybe success chromosomes that most people don't have. But I want to tell you today that's not the case. What made these people incredibly successful in their own lives, we possess exactly the same thing ourselves. Those people, the only difference between them and most people is that they discovered and uncovered this ability to go out and become a champion, think like a champion. And I want to show you right now, illustrate to you with a story that how each and every one of us can go out there and become a champion in our own lives. About 7 years ago, there was this man, 23 years old, who wanted to accomplish a goal that no one, and I mean nobody, thought possible. Not even his parents. Nobody thought he had a chance, but he didn't care. You see, the reason why was that this 23-year-old man was deaf, and he was also autistic. And academically, he operated at a grade 1-2 level. So the things that we find very easy to do in our lives, for him were challenges. So when he stepped out and wanted to do something extraordinary, nobody believed he was able to do that. You see, this 23-year-old man started seeing his younger siblings get driver's licenses, buying cars, and he wanted to do the same thing himself. But you know what? His parents and the experts and the teachers, they knew it wasn't possible just on the limitations alone of passing the exam. But you know what was amazing? That this 23-year-old didn't care. He had a goal. He wanted to become a champion in his own life. He wanted to go out there and do something that would make him feel like he had arrived. And so he kept pushing. He was resilient. He kept forcing his parents, and his parents kept putting things off, to eventually his folks thought, all right, let's give this thing a go, almost in hopes that he would let it go after he failed. But you know what happened? He didn't fail. For 3.5 years, this man got up every day and he put in the work. What would take most people maybe an hour of study or 2 hours of study with the driver's handbook, he took 9 months working with a coach, teaching him the principles, the concepts about driving, took over 250 mock exams to the point where he could go to the drive center and pass the written test. 9 months. And then it was time for him to learn to drive. And over the next couple years, he put in thousands of kilometers of driving. At one point, for over 3 months, every night with one of his parents in the passenger seat, he would go to a mall parking lot, driving around that parking lot for hours just to get the feel of a car. And then for over 1.5 years, 2 years, with professional instructors, teaching him how to go out and drive safely and competently. And after 3.5 years, this gentleman went to the drive center and passed his driving exam with flying colors. At that point there, he had won. He'd become a champion. But not only that, a few months later, he'd taken the money that he had saved and he went out and he bought his own car, becoming champion in his own life. Now that young man, that was my son, Thomas. A young man that started out on a journey that even I didn't believe he could do. So when he accomplished this incredible goal, I was so blown away by it, I had to make record of it. So I just wrote this short story about his desire and his willingness and wanting to get a license. And I wanted to have this story just written out so that a few years from now, that his brothers and his sister could look back and read it and truly appreciate this incredible accomplishment that their brother had made. But after I'd wrote the story, I give it to a friend of mine to edit. And with his encouragement, he said, people need to read this story. This was at the beginning of the pandemic about 3 years ago. And so with his encouragement, we put it online. And within 2 to 3 weeks, this story had been shared and sold worldwide. And people were contacting me wanting to know more about what Thomas had accomplished and how he did it. And so I was doing podcasts and I was doing interviews, and I realized at that point there, what he accomplished was resonating with people, that it was giving people hope. So I decided at that moment there that this story would be my mission in life, to go out and share Thomas's story on how anybody, if they have the drive and the desire, can go out there and become a champion in their own life. So when I was putting all this together and starting this new academy that I started, I had a real problem, because you see, what he accomplished didn't fit my definition of what success was, how somebody could go out and become a champion in their own life. So I had to go back to the drawing table. And so what I did is I took everything that I learned over the years about being successful, becoming a champion in our own lives, and I took the things that my mentors had taken and taught me. And what I did is I laid it on top of what Thomas had done. And I analyzed it, and I took out all the commonalities, all the things that all of us had done. And when I finished this entire experiment, there were 2 glaring conclusions that came out of it. And that's what I want to finish with, the 2 common glaring conclusions. The first one, I realized that success is structural, it's not personal. And what I mean by that is that success isn't just entitled for a few people. All of us have the ability to become successful. There has to be, though, a success structure, something in our mind that we think about on an ongoing basis. And my son, the 2 things that he does, or he did during this process, that all successful people have done. Number 1, he had this incredible burning desire to do something special in his own life. Every day, he would be on the computer looking at the kind of car he wanted. He would be on Google Maps, on the Street View, clicking on his mouse every day, imagining he was driving down the road, creating this image in his mind, seeing what it was going to be like when he won, when he got his license, when he drove his car. The second thing my son did, he had this incredible burning faith that this would happen. Before he even had the driver's license in his rear pocket or the car was in the driveway, he could see it. He knew it was going to happen because he'd seen his brothers get their driver's license. So he knew that if they did it, he could do it. And for you listening here today, find somebody who's doing what you want to do or has done it, and read about them and hear about their struggles, because it makes it personal. And then you will start believing and realizing that you can do it too. So the first thing I realized in the success process was that success was structural. It wasn't personal. And the second thing I learned is that systems are more important than individual skills, because a tried and true system will beat raw talent every day of the week. And so here's just 2 simple points that you can start using from that point of view. The first one, and this is what we did with Thomas, and this is what other successful people do, they have a written plan, knowing exactly what they want to do. And they take that plan out to the ultimate goal, the ultimate end, what this plan is going to do for them in their life. And then they scale it back and they break it down to incremental sections, basically doing to-do lists on a daily basis. And then along the way, they have road markers so that they can celebrate their accomplishments as they go along, know exactly what their progress looks like so they can evaluate and make changes in that along the way. And the second thing is that with my son and what other successful people have done is that they realize they can't do it alone. You have to surround yourself with people who not only will encourage you, but will assist you in the attainment of your goal. You can call it your mastermind group. You can call it your team, but it doesn't matter. You need to surround you with people of like mind who know what you want to do and support you in doing that. Because number 1, it will provide accountability for you. And number 2, it will provide mentorship and counsel along the way. It was an incredible process of what my son accomplished. And I'm so happy that I had the opportunity to share that with you today. But before I leave you, I want to leave you with one thing. I wish each and every one of you would have been with me and my wife on the day he went and bought his car. You see, we drove to the dealership and he was so excited. And I remember walking into the dealership and talking to the sales manager. And I remember him looking at him and handing his cash over for the car to the sales manager. And this cash, I mean, this envelope was filled with cash. It wasn't a check. And he handed over so proud. And the sales manager had him sign the forms and handed him back the keys. And when my son walked out and my wife and I watched him and he got into his car and he drove away, you should have seen the look in his face because he'd won. This was the same person who was at the bottom of a mountain and nobody believed in him. It didn't matter though. He wanted to win. He did everything he could to put him in a position to become a champion. He climbed every step for 3.5, 4 years. Didn't care what anybody else thought. And then he got at the top of that mountain that day driving away in that car, and he put his hands in the air because he knew he'd been a winner. And my goal and my wish for each and every one of you watching here today, that you get to experience that type of thing in your life as well. So thank you very much. Thank you for letting me share this story with you. And I'm going to send it back to the coach.